Hello, everyone. I am live. I'm going to get time for everyone to log on. Thank you for joining me. Go ahead and put where you're joining me from in the comments. I love to see it. LaShare is here early, so that's awesome. Very pretty picture. Whoop, whoop. So I'm excited about today, and thank you for taking the time to join me. So in 2024, we're going live at 7 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. So hopefully this is helpful to a lot of you. I have already pinned to the top. I pinned to the top my masterclass. I pinned to the top my Facebook group. So you have that information. Hey, Chanel. Chanel says, I finally made it. LaShare's from Sandy Springs, right down around the corner. Not really around the corner, but in Atlanta. So that's cool. All right, so I'm going to get right into it. This is your first time here. I'm Shahida Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. So I want you to, because you're here early, go ahead and get your questions in now. You have a better chance of getting them answered tonight. If you must get your question answered tonight, you can super chat me. I do have a moderator behind the scenes that's looking through the questions, but she will give preference to people that came here early, and she'll also give preference to people that super chat. Like super chat gets preference. So, but also people that came here early. So I appreciate you all coming early. I was gonna put up, let me go back. Chanel, I did finally made it. Oh, Cyber Girl from New York. If y'all don't know me, y'all are new to the channel. I'm from the Bronx. So, hey, Jamaican Black Queen, it's great to see you. All right, so these are the three things that I want you to know to get ready for spring. So let me put that back up here. I gotta get rid of Miss Black Queen. Let me put it up here. All right, so these are the three things. One is you need to know the consequence of early termination. If you are renting right now, you have to know the consequence if you terminate your lease early. Hey, from Macon. So these are the three things you need to focus on. And I'm saying this to prepare you for the spring market, because there was a poll done, this year or 2023 that said, at what interest rate will most people get back in the market? And most people said they would get back in the market at 5.5%. And because we're in the low sixes right now, at least for FHA, we're in the low sixes. So if that, as the months progress, if the Federal Reserve reduces interest rates, their first, time to reduce interest rates might be as early as March. If that happens, then interest rates may likely, get into the fives possibly. And so you want to prepare. If you're like, okay, at 5% or so, I'm getting back in the market. There might be, a lot of other people who are feeling the same way. And in a perfect world, you're like, oh, my lease ends in August, so I'll break my lease and move into my home, July 15th. So I never have to pay two mortgages or two bills. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you're going to find this house that gets listed in April and you're like, that's my house, I need to get it. And you're like, oh, I don't want to terminate my lease early. So I wanted to give you this example of, if you decide to do that, because I know a lot of people did it during the pandemic. So I want to show you this. Let me put it up here. All right. So let me move got a lot of stuff going on. All right. So this is a lease termination example. Just so if you guys are currently renting, say your monthly rent is $2,000 and the termination penalty is 2 months rent, and that is $4,000. And so you have 2 months rent, and everybody's lease is going to be different. So make sure you're reading your lease and you know the consequences. When you buy a house, so this is important for first-time home buyers. If you buy a house in May, your first payment is typically not due. I've never seen anybody who doesn't have a payment that is 2 months later. Your first payment is not going to be due until July. So whenever you close in May, you will skip the next month. There's no payment due in May other than like your closing costs and all of that. So there's no mortgage payment due the month you close. There's also not a mortgage payment due the month after you close. So your first payment is going to be due in July. So you'll skip June, first payment is July. And with mortgage payments, it is due on the 1st, but not late until after the 15th. So you have like a 2-week or so grace period as far as paying without any, if you paid it on the 13th, there's no penalty with your mortgage like it is like for your rent. So you want to kind of know these numbers to say, okay, does it make sense? I'm only out about $2,000, but this house is not going to be available when, you know, my lease is officially up without penalty. So you want to know that definitely going into the new year. Let me remove that and put my banner back up. So that's number one. Know that if you are renting, know your consequence of early lease termination so you can decide for yourself if you're willing to take that $2,000 hit or whatever your mortgage is. Just know that, you know, you whenever you buy a house, you don't pay the month that you close, you skip the following month, and then your first payment is due that next month. So if I was to close this month, my first payment would be due March 1st, but it'll be late after the 15th. So be mindful of that. Number two, I want you to start researching now down payment assistance programs, because let me tell you how many people, they get under contract, they see their numbers, all of these things that they shouldn't be doing at the last minute. And they're like, oh, do you think I could qualify for down payment assistance? Do you think my lender? Usually it's too late. So you need to work now. If you know that you either want to use down payment assistance or you need to use down payment assistance, you should be looking at those programs now. You should start with your state programs. Those are going to be usually the best and the most accessible to you. And then you can go into any federal programs or lender specific programs. Okay. And make sure you're putting your questions in the chat. I'm kind of just going over my 3 things to prepare you for the spring market if it gets crazy again. And then the last one is, of course, go ahead and get pre-approved. Get pre-approved early so there's no surprises that you don't qualify. You have to clean something up on your credit. Kevin and I did last February, and it's still a good video. Kevin and I did a first-time home buyer approval, like explaining the pre-approval process as detailed as possible. So there's no fear around doing a pre-approval, even if you do it early, even if you do it with 3 lenders. We talk about all of those things. So those are the 3 things that I want you to focus on. Now I'm going to take your questions. We are going to prioritize. I'm going back to the comments. We're going to prioritize. I think the question's already there, but I want to remind everybody that's coming in, we're at about 100 people right now. We are going to prioritize questions that are going to be about like the home buying process, buying in spring. Also, since I just came out with my video about agents exposed, because I came out with that video, if you have any questions regarding your agent relationship, but I would say I have a playlist about down payment assistance. I just talked about that. Look at that down payment assistance playlist. And then also I have an agents playlist, working with your agent. So you'll be able to understand that. So the moderator has put up the first question. Texas Rose from Dallas, Fort Worth, looking to purchase in 2024. I am pre-approved, but will let that lapse as I was offered 6.625 FHA. I see prices decreasing in my area, 10 to 15%. Should I hold out? I think you should meet with your real estate agent, because every market is a little bit different. And so when things are decreasing, a lot of times, at least in the winter, and I said, if you want a deal, go ahead and buy a house between Halloween, October 31st through like January 1st. Those are typically going to be the times when you're going to get a deal, because most people don't want to list their home, during the holidays. That's like, when things slow down. So when people still have to sell their homes, they're reducing prices, they're doing incentives because they want to get that home sold. Now, that might be the case in your area, Texas Rose, where it's just a seasonality thing where people are cutting their prices because it's the season. But when it comes maybe March and spring, which is the biggest, right, real estate season, spring, summer, those are the seasons when people get back out. Plus, there might be lower interest rates. You want to, you may not want to miss an opportunity because now things are more expensive than they were now. So the person that's going to be able to tell you that the best is your real estate agent. They can tell you what's happening in the market. Is it seasonal, Or is it because there's too much inventory? Because inventory, if there's more inventory than there are buyers, then price reductions will start to happen in your area. Dallas is pretty bustling. I think most major cities in Texas. So I would lean very heavily on your agent to tell you what kind of market are we currently in and what do you predict happening in the future. All right, so let's get that next question up. Thank you, Texas, for that question. Those of you that are just joining me, I'm answering not all of your questions. I'm answering your questions, as many as I can for the next hour. We were talking about getting ready for that spring market. You may have to catch the replay to see the 3 things that I suggested. But yeah, thank you for joining. I do want to remind you that I'm going to do this really quickly, sorry, I'm going to go back. I have 3 things going on this month. I don't know if I can remove this right now. Okay, we're going back and forth. I'm going to put that up later. So 1 minute. My moderator is picking the question, so we're kind of going back and forth. All right. Hi, Arthur from Houston. You got your shirt off, sir. What's happening? All right. Hi from Houston. I just wanted to say thank you for your content. All of 2022, in the first 6 months of 2023, I faithfully watched your content, and now my partner and I are homeowners. Thank you abundantly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Like you modeling in that post. Somebody might have to go to your channel. But yeah, thank you so much. And I really appreciate, y'all don't know how much, like y'all give me video ideas, y'all comment on my posts, all of those things really keep me going sometimes when I don't feel like putting out a video. I really appreciate all the support you guys give me on my channel. I hope the Houston real estate market is great to you and your partner, and congratulations, and Happy New Year. Thank you, Arthur. All right, I'm going to pull this up. Hold on one second. I'm going to hide you. 1 second, Tiffany. You'll be next. I wanted to put this up really quickly. All right, so my schedule for January, just so you don't miss anything, this is my live stream. Today is January 11th. I'm doing this live stream. I'm also going live again next Thursday, January 18th. And then I'm having an agents only webinar. You must register. I have the registration on my community page. It's all about YouTube, getting business from YouTube. So if you're an agent, then I want you to be there. And then for the people that have purchased my masterclass, we're doing a live negotiation for first-time homebuyers webinar on the 28th. If you've already purchased the masterclass, you will get an email from me and you'll know how to log into that. And you'll also have access to the replay. So thank you very, very much. I'm going to do that. And we're going to go back to Tiffany. Let me go back. Okay, Tiffany, what are conventional interest rates right now? So Tiffany, I'm going to be honest, I didn't check today. The last time I checked, they were around 6.5 or so. I probably can pull it up because I use Mortgage News Daily for your updates. So they give you an average. So right now, 30-year fixed rates are 6.72 and 30-year FHA are 6.1. So let me say that again. For conventional 30-year fixed, they're 6.72 on average. And then for FHA, they are 6.10 on average. So there's like about almost more than 0.5% difference between the conventional mortgage rate and the FHA mortgage rate. And so if you follow me a lot and you watch my videos, the main difference between conventional and FHA is that mortgage insurance component. That, FHA, for the most part, you're going to have mortgage insurance for the life of the loan. The mortgage insurance is not as expensive as it used to be. I would say that, but you are going to have it for the life of your loan. Where conventional, you'll be able to get rid of that mortgage insurance once you get 20% equity in the home, either through your down payment or through, having that equity, your house increase in value, or you paying down the mortgage over time. You'll get rid of that at mortgage insurance. So what I advise people to do, if you're not sure whether you want to do conventional or FHA, your lender should quote both and explain to you which one would be better or why you would go with one over the other based on your situation. Thank you so much for that question, Tiffany. That was a good one. I'm happy I was able to pull that up because I've been out all day today and haven't looked at it. All right. Hey, Shahida. Mount Vernon, New York, want to buy in 2024, need a realtor referral. Yeah, so if you need a realtor referral, in all of my videos, I have 2 links, and I'm going kind of state by state, adding agents that I know and trust and all of that. So if you click on the link, there'll be something for you to fill out, and then I'll send you a referral. So, and I appreciate you using me as a source for your referrals. But if you look in the link of my videos, not in this video, well, when we break, it'll be there. It's probably not there right now, but in all of my other videos, it's there. It says, if you need a referral, click, the appropriate link. Thank you so much. Directionally challenged traveler. Thank you. Money earned in Mount Vernon. All right. Candace, is there such a thing where if you had to break the lease because you're in preparation to close on a home, can it be waived based on the state? This is such a good question. So good that I made a video about it probably about 2 years ago, because I had a lot of people asking me, well, can't, I get out of my lease and break it early because, I'm buying a house? Typically, no. There's no state, unless your state specifically has something written in their lease or some kind of law that, and I interviewed a lawyer for this video. It's called Breaking Your Lease to Buy a House. So I interviewed a lawyer for this, and she was not aware of any, and she was licensed in New York, in Georgia, and she said she was not aware of any law that allows people to break their lease without penalty, with the exception, and we had to put this in there, if there's like domestic violence or something else that's happening, then you usually can get out of your lease to leave that domestic partner. That was the only exception, she said, legally, that there was in most states. So I want you to watch that video, unless sometimes leasing agencies or apartment complexes, they may offer their residents some kind of thing where if you buy a house, you can get out your lease early or without penalty, but read your lease. There's no, that I know of, go ahead and check with your state and watch that video. There's no law in place, definitely not a federal law, that says, oh, if you're going to buy a house, you can get out of your lease early. So good question, Candace, but watch that video because I've already done it. So you're not the first person to ask me that. All right, thanks. All right, Erica, with the likely of more layoffs potentially hitting the market and housing prices being overpriced, is 2024 the best year to buy, or wait till I see the fallout from the economic market? All right, this is a good question. I'm going to put it down for a second because it's kind of covering my face. All right, so I'll make sure I'm reading it correctly. All right. With layoffs hitting the market, I just think, and this is I think a general answer, people have been talking about the market crashing, layoffs since the pandemic began. So when we get to March of 2024, it will be 4 years from the start of the pandemic. And at some point, you have to, there's always going to be a risk of downturns in any market, the stock market, the real estate market. You have to look at overall, right? So if you look at the stock market overall, it has a positive return. If you look at real estate overall, it has a positive return. There's only a few years, definitely 2008, and maybe one other kind of in our lifetimes, that the real estate market has gone down overall. So when you're talking about real estate, you're talking about the stock market, there's positive gains overall, like last 50 years, last 100 years, there's going to be positive gains. And when you're trying to time the markets, that's what you're trying to say. Well, if I time it just right, I'll get in when possibly, right, the market may go down. Now, if I was talking to you, in 2020, that didn't happen. The house that you probably could have got for $200,000 is now $400,000. And so you didn't time the market right. So I would say when you can afford to buy a house and it's less than 25 to 35% of your take home pay, so it's going to be affordable for you, then I would go ahead and buy, because and you're a long-term person that's going to live in that house. You're not trying to flip it and make a profit immediately, because the inventory, if you really do your research, if you're one of the people who's like, I got to know what's going to happen. If you really do your research, there's a lot of research on supply, right? The supply of homes is millions of underbuilt. Like, we're millions of homes underbuilt. And so that supply and demand is going to be still there. So there's more people that want homes that have homes available. And also on the layoff side, we're at a 3.7% unemployment rate. So there would have to be something, we would have to get into it. And even when they say we're going to have a recession, they're predicting a mild recession. They're not predicting a deep recession. So even if you need to be more concerned if you lose your job, right? So if you lose your job, do you have the 3 to 6 months or more of your savings to make sure you're prepared? And I would say for anybody, if it because the fear is, I'm gonna buy the house at this and it's gonna be worth this. If you're one of those people, I would suggest this just so you can sleep at night. I would go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to buy a home when, it's in my budget and I'm ready to buy. And I'm going to prepare and have this other money over here. Opportunity. This is what business people do. They go ahead and take the opportunities as they come, but they're always prepared for downturns. Because think about it, in 2008, when they had this huge crash, and nobody's predicting that crash again, that who had money to buy those cheap houses, right? Not a lot of people, because they didn't have their jobs and that sort of thing. So if you're one of those people that is just like fear has you not making any moves, then go ahead and save some extra money to say, okay, even if I'm going to get this house, and that's what people do in the stock market, right? They buy their stocks, they invest. But if there's like a stock market crash, they're buying that stuff at a discount with the money that they already have. So I'm saying you can do two things at once, but timing the market typically does not work for most people. So buy when you can afford to buy. All right. Thank you so much for that question. All right. Next question, Lester. Hey, Shahida, I might buy a house in 2024 and retire in 2025. Should I advise the lender I'm going to retire or get approval based on my current employment? What is your advice? This is a good question. So if you get approved in 2024, they're going to use your current income. And if your retirement income is going to be substantially less than that, then you have to say, hey, lender, I know you approved me for, say, a $600,000 house, but in your mind, I'm about to retire in a year. I don't want a $600,000 house. My budget in retirement is going to be this. Give me a quote for a $400,000 house, because you don't have to. And I said this in a short. The lender is telling you how much money they will lend you. You have to tell them what you can afford. Just because they give you a $600,000 pre-approval does not mean you need to spend $600,000. You could spend anywhere from, some lenders don't lend less than $60,000, $80,000. So say they will let you borrow maybe from $80,000 to $600,000. But so you set your budget ahead of time and say, hey, I'm not spending more than this. Make my pre-approval for this. What is my, give me a loan estimate. Let me know what that mortgage payment is going to be, because what they will do when they're checking your employment as part of like underwriting, they'll ask how long, is their employment expected to continue. So you want to be cautious of that if you're trying to get approved for more, and say that you already put in your retirement paperwork and that sort of thing, then you're not going to get approved for how much you thought, because they're going to base it off that retirement amount. But I would say just don't base the lender's pre-approval because you are the one who knows what your retirement income is going to be. Hope that makes sense, Lester. All right, so let's have our next question. Right now we have 185 people. So hopefully I have 185 likes. So go ahead and hit that like button. Take a moment on your phone, on your desktop, wherever you're doing. Go ahead and hit the like button. All right, Rochelle. There's a new program for the state of Ohio called Home Buyers Plus Savings. Are you familiar with this? Just want to know if it's a good program to consider. No, I'm not familiar with this because it's new. And I don't know every program for every state, but I do tell people to start with their state programs. They're usually going to be the better programs and have the most incentives for people that live in that state. So what I would tell you to do is, if you're considering this program, typically they'll have webinars or they'll have like programs or a lot of information online. But always quote the program, right? And then if you did it by yourself. Let me give you an example, because our program in Georgia, they have a set interest rate, our most popular down payment assistance program. It has a set interest rate, but it also has a 2% origination fee. So let me give you an example, and they'll give you about $10,000. So say you're buying a $300,000 house. They're going to give you in down payment assistance $10,000, but their fees are 2%. So 2% of a $300,000 house is $6,000, where the typical lender fees are much less than that. So really, are they really giving you $10,000? They're giving you $4,000. Now, some people need that $4,000 in order to buy a home. So I'm saying that to say you really want to compare if I did this by myself and saved the money and did that, or if I use this down payment assistance program. So I always tell people to quote both, see which makes the most sense for you, because at least with our program, you don't have to make any payments on it as long as you're living in the house. But if you ever sell or refinance, you owe the entire $10,000 back, right? They use it to refund programs in the future. So you just want to be mindful of that before you make a decision, to just get into this program. You haven't fully vetted it. So always do 2 quotes, the quote with the program, and then, another lender quote. What would it look like if I did my own down payment? All right, good question. All right, hey, Angela. How does it work if I want to move to another state? Should I work with a realtor in that state? All right, so good question. So number one, I have a video on this. It's called buying a house in another state, something along those lines. So watch that video. And I give 3 different scenarios as to how to best do this, buying a house in another state. So the reason why you need a realtor in the state you're moving to is because every real estate agent is licensed by that state. And there are some real estate agents that are licensed in like 2 states, but they're usually like neighboring. Like a lot of people in Georgia are also licensed in Florida because they'll do, deals in Florida. A lot of them are licensed in Alabama. So they're doing it in bordering states where it's, easy to travel back and forth. People that are licensed in North Carolina are often licensed also in South Carolina. But you have to be working with an agent that is licensed in the state that you are moving to. So yes, you need to work with a realtor in that state, not in your current state. Okay, good question. I'm going to go ahead and I'm a sponsor my own. Yes, you can still purchase the masterclass. The link is the first link. I have some starred links at the very top. You'll see that. And because y'all were asking me, I'm sponsoring my own stuff, my own lives. Y'all were asking me, what does it all include? I made a video. So I'm going to show that video now. I'm going to see, moderator, can you take that one down? Thank you, Softer Side, for asking. I'm going to go ahead and play that video. It's about a minute, and then I'll go back and take your questions. We're about 2:05. Put your questions in. If you have to get a question answered today, you probably want to super chat. Those get priority. But the moderator is looking through the questions and making sure there's no, duplicates and that sort of thing. All right. Are you looking for guidance on the first-time homebuyer process? And are you tired of those first-time homebuyer guides that leave you with more questions than answers? You are not alone. Most of those guides provide basic definitions and explanations because they're afraid to dig deeper because they don't want to give you too much information because then you may question what they're doing, your inspector, your agent, your lender. But what if you could become a confident first-time homebuyer armed with knowledge and clarity? Introducing my first-time homebuyer masterclass and confidently closed digital handbook. Join thousands of successful homebuyers who have unlocked the secrets to a seamless home buying journey. My comprehensive resources include a step-by-step masterclass, exclusive confidently closed digital handbook and sample documents, and a bonus new construction mini masterclass and checklist. You're not going to find this organized like I've organized it anywhere else. Our 9-step video masterclass, explainer videos, and 40-page digital handbook will be your trusted companion through the home buying process. Don't let the complexities of home buying overwhelm you. Invest in your education today and make confident decisions from the start. Check my reviews and the thousands of people that I have helped confidently buy their first home. All right, thank you. So I'm posting it again in the comments, plus it's at the very top along with my Facebook group. So those 2 things, there you go. Putting that in there. All right, thank you so much. I'm ready for the next question. And those of you that are coming out, we're at about 200 or so now. Those of you that are coming in late, I gave my 3 tips for buying a house in 2024. 3 things you need to do were you need to look at right now, early termination. And I explained how it may not be that much money lost when you terminate early in order to buy your house, that you get to skip months of your mortgage payment. And then we talked about researching down payment assistance programs now and not waiting until you're under contract and like, oh, I could have got down payment assistance. And then the last one, of course, was get pre-approved, but I explain it better at the very beginning of this. All right, Donnie, I was pre-approved on a new construction at 7.5 with rates falling and we close in late February. Will I automatically get a lower rate at close? So this is a great question. Now, if you joined me last week, Donnie, not last week, my last live, probably or 2 lives ago, I talked specifically about what happens if you lock your rate and rates go down and how you should handle that. So right now, I don't know if your interest rate is locked. And that's something you just discuss with your lender. Now, this is for everybody. You need to understand, when in that video, I said, you need to understand how the mortgage rate lock works. So when you initially are getting pre-approved, they're going to quote you an interest rate. But that interest rate is floating, meaning every day interest rates change. Sometimes, several times a day, depending on what's happening in the market. So interest rates are always either going up, going down, up or down. And so until you formally lock that interest rate, and it's typically after you go under contract, until you lock that interest rate, you don't have what interest rate you're going to have by the time you close. Now, if you lock it, so if he locked this interest rate at 7.5, and now we talked about, say he's doing conventional or say he's even doing FHA, and they're in the 6% now, he can, with lenders, after he has this conversation, he can float his rate down to the lower rate. But you have to have that discussion with your lender ahead of time. This is why, because a lot of lenders charge you to float that rate back down. But a lot of them will waive it. Let me say this, and lenders in the thing probably going to be mad at me, but wait till my lender exposed. Here's the thing. If you tell your lender, and hopefully they have more than one, I don't know if you're using the preferred lender for new construction, but if you say you lock the rate at 7.5 and then you're like, oh, rates are down to 6.5, and you won't, and the lender says, I'm not floating your rate down unless you pay me, a $5,000 fee or something. You could just say, I'm going to a new lender. You don't close until February, so you got plenty of time to go to a new lender and get that lower rate. There's nothing they can do to penalize you for switching lenders. Now, you may lose your appraisal fee if you've already paid for that, and that's usually conventional appraisal fees, because FHA appraisal fees will transfer from one lender to another lender, so you don't have to pay twice. But I'll lose a $600 appraisal fee if I'm going to be saving over the life of my loan $20,000 or something, So I want you to, this for everybody, have this conversation with your lender early. What happens? All you have to do is ask, and this is all in the masterclass, what happens if I lock the rate and rates go down before I close? And is there a fee that I have to pay if, rates go down? And just know in your head, if you have to, that's why I always want you to get pre-approved with 3 different people. So you're not starting from scratch. If you need to move from one lender to another, it's easier if they already have your application on file. It's harder if you have to start from scratch. So just know how that all works so you're prepared. Good question, Donnie. And I have videos on locking your rate, what happens if it goes down. I have all of those videos. Thank you, guys. Elizabeth, I'm considering buying in spring 2024 in a major metropolitan area. I'm not even gonna think about what HCOL means, but what are some lessons from the early 2000s housing bubble that first-time home buyers should be mindful of? Okay. You know what they should be mindful of? That if you look at home prices now, that people that were in that bubble that didn't sell their house. So for example, I think I bought a house in 2006. I talked about it because I had a adjustable rate mortgage. Watch that video too. And I feel like we bought it for, don't quote me on this, maybe we bought it for $260. During 2008, 2009, I think it went down in value to $170. and now it's on the market for 425. So even when things go down, I kind of told that other person in the chat that overall, like, we're not looking at 1 year, 2 years. We're looking at this is we're looking at a long term. I'm not saying you're buying this house. If you're buying a house and you're only gonna live in there for 3 years, don't buy it. You need to be buying a house only if you're gonna live there at least 5 to 7 years, because you'll be able to withstand any small market corrections, just like the stock market. When the stock market goes down, it's not the best thing for to say, well, let me get all my money out, right? Because you're not going to get that gain back, and you're probably going to buy it at a higher rate when you try to get back in the market. That's what timing the market means. If everybody knew 100% certainty that that real estate rates were going to go down 10%, nobody would be buying right now. But there's nobody knows with 100% certainty what's going to happen. So you have to plan for the long term and look at longer range, right? Real estate trends. If you look over the last 30 years, the home that, is down the street was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, like in the 90s, might have been $100,000. Now it's $400,000. Those kind of things, Coca-Cola stock, I don't know, a Google stock, I'll do that one. Google stock might have been $12 and now it's $400 or $1,000. You have to look at the long range of things. And in housing, you have to look at that as well. So that's my advice to you. Think for the long term. You go ahead and look at some of those houses that were at whatever prices when the market collapsed and where they are now. I bet most of them, have rebounded. Even the house that I have, it was a house that I think somebody lost in foreclosure. Somebody else bought it, and then I bought it from them. So they might have bought it in the 200s. It went down to like 150. They sold it to me for 225. So they made about $70,000 off of it. Now it's worth $500,000. I bet the person that sold it to me at 222 wish they never sold it, but they thought, oh, I'm getting a deal at one whatever 50 something. So think long term so you're not as worried, because if you watch all those crash videos, even if you go back at my crash videos, I'm like, well, I don't think a crash is going to happen, but as long as you can afford the house and you're buying long term, you should be fine. And that has been my answer over and over and over again. And that's what I'm doing myself. If people believe that, you guys, they would be selling all of their real estate right now. And most people are not doing it. If all these crash people believed that the market was going to have a huge reduction, they would not own real estate right now. They would go ahead and sell it now and then be waiting on the crash. What they're doing is they're holding their current real estate. And if that happens, they have another pool of money to spend that money, it's called an opportunity fund, right? So if something like that, you want to be on hand with cash so you can take advantage of those types of opportunities. And so even I have that. Like now I'm like, okay, if anything happens and there's a deal, and not like a crash, if a deal happens, I want to be able to take advantage of it. It could be a deal where somebody's trying to get rid of a property, or there's a divorce or something, and I want to make sure I have enough money to be on hand. I'm not anticipating a crash, or people have so much equity in their home. It would have to be a crash, like they're going to lose 50% of their value. Because even I lost 50% of my value, I'm still ahead, so it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Most people are saying, okay, instead of values going up like they were 20%, all of that over the pandemic, it might go up 1%. It might go up 2%. That's it. That's what most people are saying. Or if it goes down, same single digit reductions. Prices have not gone down since the pandemic. All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. Hey, my super chat. Thanks for super chatting me. Mocha Wright Randy. Hey, how are you? Hello. Based on the current market, is it profitable to enter the real estate profession as a licensed realtor? Yes, yes, yes. Did you watch my video on real estate agents exposed, or the truth about your real estate agent? All right. So the reason why real estate is good to get into is because of the unlimited, think of unlimited income potential. Okay. So for every house you sell, or, every house you sell, you're going to make money. commission. It's a sales job. So the more sales you have, the more money you will make. Now, not everybody is good at sales. Not everybody is good at getting that. So you have to have some kind of, because I'm not going to go over my whole story, but I did it for like 2 to 3 years, and I was living closing to closing, closing to closing. That's why I started teaching. And then in getting back into it and having social media now, I get it more. I was much younger before. I was like, oh, I signed up at Remax. Where are my leads? Like I signed up like I was getting a job, and people were just going to bring me business. And getting into it now, I realized that I had my own business, had to get my own clients, all of that. So I think it is still, we're still in a seller's market. It is a little, so sellers will, still be making money in this market. They're going to they have a lot of equity in their homes, those that want to sell. Buyers can still afford to buy in this market. People are still buying homes in this market. So there's business to be had on both sides. I think we're going to get into more balanced market where sellers are not going to have all the power. So if you are considering getting into real estate now, I highly recommend it, just because I don't, and I never liked it. Like I never liked, teachers have a salary schedule. I don't know if you're like a government worker. It's like, okay, you have this education, you've been working for this many years, this is how much you're going to get paid. I never liked that. So I always had side businesses so I could make more money. And, it just gives you an opportunity to make more money. Like there's no ceiling on what you can make. Cause I was working hard. Like I was teacher of the year. I was doing all this stuff. I was a cheerleading coach, the track coach, the FBLA advisor. And, pretty much you're getting the same thing all the time. You could be an excellent teacher and still be making the same money as the gym teacher who doesn't do anything. And that's, a hard thing to keep continually doing. But long answer, but yes, I agree with getting into real estate. And I think you can still be profitable. People are making money everywhere, but it is work. So I do advise you, if you're thinking about switching your career, do it part-time until you gain some business, you're getting in leads that are steady. And then if you want to do it full-time, I would do it after that. Thank you. All right, make every effort. My lease is up in November. When should I start home shopping if I don't want to break the lease? Just break your lease. I'm like, I would say 3 to 4 months. So what is that? October, September, August, July, August begin, because you don't know. It may take you 3 to 4. It really depends on what your market is like for your price point. So if you're at a price point where there's a lot of availability of housing, then you could probably shorten it a little bit. But if you are at a price point where, there's not very many houses available at that price point, that's why I want you to at least consider breaking your lease, because if your house just happens to be listed in July, and it may, you don't want to miss that opportunity for, just if you're thinking about a money thing, like not wanting to break your lease, I just want you to be flexible. But I would say for everyone, 3 to 4 months before your lease ends will give you enough time typically to find what you need and close. Closings take, I would want everybody to estimate 30 to 45 days from not from like home shopping, from putting a contract on a house to closing is 30 to 45 days. But the actual searching for a house, some people might take them 6 months. So you probably need to go ahead and, find, like, once you say, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm thinking about, how much inventory is it for that type of home? So it's really important that you think about that. All right. Hey, Ronald Zion. I saw you in the thing. Miss Hill, it's cold, so I'm keeping my shirt. Yes, author had that shirt off. How long do you think Fannie Mae will continue their 5% down for multifamily? I think they're going to continue it from now on, unless, I guess, there's like a crash, right? Where a lot of people foreclose on these multifamily homes. But I think they want to be more competitive with FHA, because it always, you guys, it's way easier typically to qualify for FHA than it is for conventional, right? So just write that down if you're not aware of that. It's easier to qualify for FHA than it is for conventional, because the standards for conventional are much tighter. The interest rate is higher, and the debt to income ratio is more stringent with Like you need to have more income and less debt with conventional. And then FHA is, has a more lenient debt to income ratio and has a lower credit score requirement. So you're going to qualify for more with FHA and you're more likely to get approved. But they have a big push towards getting more, I guess, diversity and that sort of thing that can qualify for conventional loans. So I think they're going to have it I don't know, forever, but as long as FHA has it, they'll probably have it because they reduced it to be competitive with FHA. Thank you, Ronald. All right, Cookie. Hey, Cookie. Hey, Shahida, what if I'm on a month-to-month lease and want to buy a house? Is it usually 30 days to notify the landlord? And do I have to pay the whole next month if I'm moving within that time frame? Now, month-to-month is ideal. Typically, like you said, it's usually a 30-day notification to notify your landlord. I think it's really, you have to start having those conversations now if you're on a 30-day lease because you don't know, right? You don't know what well, it's in your lease. In your lease is going to tell you what the penalty is. But sometimes I think buyers try to time it like, oh, exactly. I'm going to stop my lease on this day and move in the next day. And it's usually rarely that smooth. Closings get delayed. Your approval, your loan stays in underwriting longer than you thought. So you still need to give yourself that grace period to say, okay, if I close on the 2nd, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks and I'm going to tell my my landlord that I'm not going to move out until the 15th or something along those lines. Don't try to make it so tight. Like a lot of people, you already moved out the house, you have your U-Haul truck, and then the closing doesn't happen and you're like, okay, I'm homeless right now. I had a closing on Wednesday and it was going to get delayed. The closing was scheduled for the 10th and the lender said, oh, we may have to push it till the 16th, the following week. And the lady was like, I'm in an Airbnb. I was representing the listing. And she was like, I'm in an Airbnb. I can't close next week. Already blah, blah, blah. So like you want to give yourself some wiggle room, Cookie, and not be like so tight, but look at your lease, talk to your landlord and kind of plan to be a little bit flexible around those closing dates. All right. Good questions, everyone. Let me, all right. So I showed you my masterclass. I have a little video. Hopefully y'all saw that. Lashir, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not going to say the last name because I don't want to get that name wrong. I always tell my kids when I was teaching high school, give me 2 weeks. My name is Shahida. Everybody says it wrong, but give me 2 weeks and I'll have everybody's name. But you're from the Bronx also. All right. I'm from Co-op. So Co-op City for those of you in New York. But I've lived in Atlanta for over 20 years. All right. So we are looking at a new development in Austell. Okay. Austell is in Cobb County for everyone. It's about 20 minutes from Atlanta. We've gotten pre-approved already, but we're thinking to wait, but our pre-approvals might expire. Oh no, it's not a big deal. It's not like it's a pre-approval is not like a coupon where it's like, okay, it expires on August 1st. And if I don't use it by August 1st, I can't use it again. Typically, most pre-approvals are 60 to 90 days, or maybe some are longer. It really depends on the lender. And when you need a new pre-approval, what they'll do is usually rerun your credit. So, but just ask your lender, say, hey, if I don't buy within this time frame, and a lot of you aren't, because I'm telling you, go ahead and get pre-approved to see where you stand. You may not buy till 6 months later. And ask them, what do I need to do to renew this pre-approval with you? And sometimes you don't need to renew it until you're ready to like actually buy a house. So, just ask them. A lot of times it's just rerunning your credit and sometimes giving them updated bank statements and check stubs just to make sure you're still working. So it's not a really big deal. Like I know people are like, oh, my stuff is going to expire. That you shouldn't rush and try to buy something just because your pre-approval is going to expire. I don't think it's a big deal at all. Like on the level of things to think about, that's very low level. So don't even worry about it. All right. Are you familiar with the NACA program? I think you put that down, but let's talk about NACA real quick. Yes. I have 3 videos on NACA. One is NACA too good to be true? And I have like this thumbs up, thumbs down like that. And then I have the best mortgage in America, NACA. And then I did an interview with somebody who actually closed with NACA. So yes, I'm familiar with them. It's a good program if you have patience and you're willing to go through it. Because not everybody, I don't know, like it's kind of like going into the army. Not everybody makes it through basic training kind of thing. So a lot of people start with NACA. It's not like, oh, you just sign up and you get pre-approved and they give you the benefit of NACA is there's no mortgage, no down payment, no closing cost, and there's no mortgage insurance. So you basically don't have to have much money unless you like the money that you do have, they usually use it to buy down your rate. So it's like a really good mortgage program, but it's not easy to get. Like you have to have, they send you through like credit counseling and budget planning and all of these things. And a lot of times you're set up with a counselor. That counselor works at NACA for 2 months and then you need a new counselor. Now, these are the things that I've heard, right, that people complain about. So the process for a lot of people is not easy. Now, sometimes the quickest I've heard somebody get through NACA, the program, and get their pre-approval is probably about 3 months. The longest, like 2 years. So you have to be prepared to say, okay, and there's a NACA Facebook group. I recommend like an official NACA Facebook group, get in that group. And there also usually is a city NACA Facebook group, like so Atlanta NACA or Houston NACA or, you know, whatever, Ohio NACA, I don't know. Like every state or city has a Facebook group. Get in that group. Try to get in the official one and then get in an unofficial one because the unofficial one will tell you the truth about what's going on. So yeah, I like the program. I'm not against the program. The program is legitimate. The program is a good benefit for people that might not have as much money, but they're gonna make you work for that NACA mortgage. Thank you, Lamisha. Watch those videos. I have 3. Angela Lewis, how do you find a lender? Is that the first thing I should do when wanting a particular house? How do you use state programs? All right. So this is my recommendation, and I'll tell you why. In my steps, I want you to find a real estate agent first in the area you plan on buying in. And I want one of your lender quotes. I want you to do 3 lender quotes. I want one of those lender quotes to come from your agent's recommendation. And this is why. A lot of times when you are just randomly choosing a lender, that relationship is not as strong as the relationship between an agent and a lender. Not saying that they're in cahoots or there's something, wrong with that, but the majority of lenders' business, they get from agents. Agents refer them clients. So say Bob is a lender. If I call Bob, who I've closed several transactions with, and I say, hey, I'm going to send Angela over to you to get pre-approved. Make sure you take care of her. He's going to make sure he calls Angela back. He's going to make sure he follows up. He's usually going to treat you better because if you don't, guess what? Shahid is not going to refer you any more business. Now, if you, Angela, call Bob, I just call Bob, can I get pre-approved? He doesn't really have that. He may be nice to you, but he's looking at, oh, your credit's a little bit low, and then stop calling you back. There are so many first-time home buyers who have done applications, give people all their information. They never hear back. They never follow up. They never do anything. So I want one of your pre-approvals to come from your agent's recommendation. The other 2, I want you to get it from one of these 3 places. Your current bank or credit union, a mortgage broker, which you can kind of look around or ask your agent, they know of any brokers because they quote with multiple people. And the other one is do it with someone online, like an online mortgage company. So then you're kind of seeing, okay, if they're all, around the same rate, around the same fees, the interest rates are going to vary with all of them. The fees are going to vary with all of them. Don't let a lender tell you they all have the same fees, or they have all have the same rates. And so those are where your 3 quotes should come from. And then your state programs. In the beginning of this video, I said, if you're thinking about buying in the spring, summer, I want you to start researching your state programs now. Every single state in the United States has a first-time homebuyer program. The amount of money varies that they're going to give you. I've seen anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000. I think Houston has like $100,000. They have programs in every state. I want you to start there first. But some programs require you to use a preferred lender. So you can't just use your own lender. You have to use a particular lender, and they might have a set interest rate. And then some programs, you can apply for the program, then get a lender. So you have to do that research to understand, because every program is usually a little bit different that your state offers. All right, good question, Angela. All right, mixed capital media. What advice do you have for homeowners considering a streamlined reduction to refinance a mortgage after 1 year of ownership? Okay, so you shouldn't base your refinance on how long you've owned the property. You should be basing your refinance on the interest rate. How much in interest rate are you saving after that 1 year of ownership? And you should be quoting with at least, I always say 3, but hey, I'll go 2 at least with this. Like 3 is like ideal, but do at least 2 refinance application. So I have a video on my channel called When Does It Make Sense to Refinance? If you're at a 7% mortgage rate, for example, it may not make sense when interest rates drop to 6.5 because it's going to take you a long time to break even. That might not be enough. Typically, it makes sense at about 1% or lower that you should start, thinking about refinancing that mortgage. But when you say you refinance in a year, say interest rates are a percentage lower in a year and they're steadily dropping, are you going to refinance again and again and again? So sometimes it makes sense because every refinance costs money, typically, right? Refinancing is not free. Like nobody's giving you a free refinance. Some lenders are trying to throw it out there. I think Rocket Mortgage says they'll refinance you for free one time or something. But typically refinances are not free. They're going to roll that refinance cost into your loan. So if you really want to, if it's going to be in a short time frame, you don't want to refinance in June and refinance again in September, because you're going to pay a fee in June, you're going to pay a fee in September. It's best to wait. If you feel like rates are steadily going down, it's probably best to wait until September. But I did a video on when it makes sense to refinance. You should be watching that video. And then I'm going to do another video, like preparing to refinance. So what you need to do to, prepare yourself to refinance. Because I know a lot of people, that are at those higher interest rates are really excited about refinancing, but you have to do it when it makes sense. Thank you, Mixed Capital Media. All right, Omnipresence, celebrating 2 years in my first house. Just had to stop by and say thank you for all the info along the way. Couldn't have done it without you. You think all these people are, yes, okay, so maybe this, I remember Omnipresence. I've been doing this like since 2019 for the most part. I haven't been as popular in 2019. I used to have just an Atlanta channel, and then I, started doing just general content that wasn't Atlanta specific. And I think on one of my lives, I said something like, do you really think these people are smarter than you? When you drive past and you like look at all these houses, do you think they're smarter than you? Because people think like, oh, like it's going to be so much to buy a house and what I have to do. And so I said that. And then one girl was like, you right. Like, I think it just hit her. I don't know if it's the same person, but she was like, it hit me when you said that. She's like, none of these people are smarter than me. It can't be that difficult. If all of these people have properties, it can't be that difficult. That if you're thinking like, oh, this is so complicated, and my masterclass will help you make it even easier. But these people, all the properties, all the homes that you pass on your way to work or in your community, none of those people are smarter than you. They just went ahead, did the application, got some money, and closed on that house. So if you're intimidated by it, don't be. All right. Thank you, Omnipresence, and congratulations on 2 years. All right, T winning it all. Mrs. Hill, we're going with a C2P. I have no idea what that is. Cash to permanent. I have no idea what CP is. One-time close on our new, I know what it is. Construction to permanent, right? Construction to permanent. Okay. Sometimes y'all get me with the acronyms. Construction to permanent, one-time close on our new construction home. What are your thoughts on this process? I don't know if I have thoughts on the process necessarily. It sounds like usually you do that with custom built properties where you're doing construction to perm, and you're already doing it. So I don't really have a thought on the process. I would have probably made sure ahead of time that I quoted with at least 3 lenders and saw what, what you needed to do. I'm sure you're working with like the different contractors now. And usually the lender is paying those contractors little by little. And then you close on that property and they're paying um, when you're building a custom home, and usually it's on your own land, then you have to get money for the construction of the property, and then you have to get a mortgage. So that's what they mean by C2P. And so I don't really have any thoughts on the process. I don't know if you have a specific question regarding it, let me know. But I don't really have thoughts necessarily. Like, what are you asking? I think it's a pretty straightforward process. Probably if, I would recommend that you have done the 3 quotes ahead of time, just to make sure you're getting the best deal. All right. We're at 8 o'clock. I have 227 people. Hopefully I have 227 likes. I want you to get my masterclass. We're going to take 5 more questions. All right. Come through, Shy. I love Lashir. Like, Lashir, we could be friends. That was a dope infomercial ad. Signing up now. Yes. And you guys, we're going to do our negotiation class that I was talking about on the 28th. So everybody that signed up, you'll just get an email and a link to that webinar because they'll be in the class itself. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. See, Bronx people they're just different. We're just different. All right. So I'm going to take 5 more questions and you might get selected. So let's get those last 5 before we call it a night. And make sure, did y'all think my Club Shasha was funny? And Cat Williams Club Shay Shay is getting 40 million views. I need 40 million views on something. So there's truth in all humor, but those of you that took it way too seriously, it wasn't that serious. Like, it was just being funny. And it was a play on the Cat Williams interview. All right. So if you didn't watch it, it might've been confusing, but if you watched it, I think you got it. All right, Dana. Hey, Dana, cute picture. If I rent out my current house in Maryland and purchase a new home in Georgia, move to Georgia. In Georgia, does my lender consider the mortgage as DTI? I have a VA loan. Yes. There's a lot of things that are going to happen with this. So, well, not that many. They are going to consider that the mortgage in your DTI. However, they will also consider your rent as income. So if your rent is covering your mortgage or more than covering it, that's going to be part of your income. So it kind of just balances each other out. So when you are moving, just make sure you have a copy of the lease. You're not renting out to like your family members and you don't have a lease, and you want to make sure you have all your paperwork together. You want to sign the lease with dates and all of that, make it very professional. And then you want those payments so they need to see if you're, going to get pre-approved. The underwriter is probably going to ask, they're going to say, okay, you rented out this house, then, let's see. And they're paying $2,000, $3,000 a month. They want to see where those $3,000 a month payments going. So there's not like, okay, you just did a fraudulent lease and the house is not really rented out and all that kind of stuff. So just make sure all your paperwork is together. And then with VA, like, thank you for your service, either you or your husband, whoever is qualifying for the VA mortgage. You want to make sure that you have, if you're trying to do VA in Georgia, you want to make sure you still can. You probably still can. I did a live with a VA lender a lender that specializes in VA mortgages. Is under my live tab, and you probably can. But you know how you have how you qualify for VA, you need the document. You want to just make sure all of that is set up before you make any moves. So talk to your lender, and they'll talk to the lender now so they can explain exactly how you have to have things set up. But that's a good question. Thank you, Dana. All right, Stacy, have you ever heard of anyone using more than one down payment assistance program? Yes. Okay, so that's called stacking. I don't know if it's like an official word or not, but when people say, can you stack down payment assistance programs? I would say the answer for 90% of the time is no. Okay, the answer 90% of the time is no. However, like, you can't say, can I do NACA? People always ask me this. Can I do NACA with the Bank of America grant? Can I do NACA with this? Or can I do the Bank of America with the Chase? Like, those things don't go together. They're different companies. They're different businesses. But I would say 90% of the time. So let's talk about 10. That's why you want to start researching I'm sorry, I start talking fast. You want to start researching the programs now. So let's put away the 90%. 90% of the time, they're standalone programs and you can't mix them with other things. But the other 10% of the time that I have seen have been usually state and city programs. So, for example, Georgia might have a program and the city of Atlanta might have a program. So, if you're moving to the city of Atlanta, you might be able to get the city program and the state program because they kind of work together. Or there might be multiple, like the housing authority might have one program and the city might have one program, and then you can use them together. So that's typically where I see where you can stack. And usually it's within the same state and city because they already are aware of the programs in the state. And the city says, okay, the state program gives you $15,000, but if you move to our city, we'll give you an additional 5,000, additional 7,000, some other incentive that goes along with that state program. So when you're doing your research, how you pretty much find out this is every person that you're thinking, every program that you're thinking of using, then you're going to say, hey, what other programs have people used in the past that goes with yours? Because they know, the program administrators know what other programs, so many guidelines and that sort of thing. They know what other programs work with their program. But that's a good question. All right, so that was question number 2, I think. So 3 more. Hey, Michelle, I purchased your course a couple of years ago. Is there a way I can access the bonus content of the new construction mini masterclass without having to buy the program again? Good question. So everybody that, and I sent a couple emails, it might have went to your spam. Everybody that bought the course originally, because I changed platforms too. I moved you to the new platform. So you have access to it. You just probably don't realize you do. I sent several emails so you get the new login and new password. So if you don't have it, look in your spam. You probably, it says like confidently closed, platform changing, something like that. If you can't find it, just email support@shahidahill.com. Support@shahidahill.com. Give me the email that you use when you purchase the course, and I'll make sure you get it. Thank you, Michelle, for your support. All right. Hey, did loan amounts increase for 2024 in Georgia? Yes. So for 2024, loan amounts increased for conventional and they increased for FHA. I don't have them right now in front of me, so I'm not going to quote them, but they did increase. Like they went up, a few $1,000s for, because inflation, things are more expensive. So the maximum amount that you can borrow for FHA and for conventional have gone up in every state. So you are able to qualify. That doesn't mean that. So if you're making $50,000 a year and the FHA limit is $700,000, it's not going to mean you qualify for $700,000. It just means if you're probably making $200,000 a year and you need to go higher than, $690, now it's $710, that sort of thing. But every FHA and conventional have loan limits. Like they're not going to lend you $10 million. So all of them have loan limits, and it varies by state. And sometimes by city, like more expensive areas, they'll go a little bit higher. But yeah, all of them increase for 2024. Good question, Brittany. All right, I think this is our last one. Please hit the like button. I can't do it. I don't think what you're doing, but please hit the like button for me, please. I'd appreciate it. All right, Taro, Wheezy. All right, we are using the builder's lender. They said we get a free refinance. We just have to pay a $500 appraisal fee. Have you heard of this? Should I tell them I want a written agreement for that? Okay. So a lot of, remember I said like Rocket Mortgage is offering this like a free one-time refinance. So some lenders are offering, at my closing, they were talking about it too. We'll refinance you for free within the first year. Some people are offering that. So it's probably legitimate. You're saying you just have to pay the $500 appraisal fee. Yes. So I think it's legitimate. I've heard of it before, especially right now, because they're trying to basically get you into this loan now and telling you, well, I told you refinances cost money. They're going to roll it into your loan. And so they're like, okay, go ahead and get this interest rate now, and then we'll give you a free refinance in the future. Yes, you want to have that in writing. So when you get their loan, say, where can I see that you're going to give me this free refinance? And usually they're going to have a time limit on it. That's what I've, seen, that you have to refinance within a year or 2 years or something like that. So yeah, I want you, anytime anybody tells you anything, and it's like, it's finance related, money related, tell me you want to see it in writing. All right, good question. I think it's our last one. It's 8/12 next Thursday. I gave you the whole calendar for January. Thank you so much. If you don't have good credit, start now. All right, I think the People's Lender, this is Kevin, People's Lender, he's talking about refinancing. So if you don't have good credit, you're saying start now? Or are you saying, Kevin, you should have put a more more descriptive post. Kevin, type real quick. I know you hear me. If you don't have good credit, start now. Are you saying getting ready for home ownership start now, or refinancing start now? So put that in there right quick, and we'll put that in there. I think he's talking about home ownership in general. So if he is, I have my 7-day to perfect credit, or it's a plan. I'm not saying you're gonna have perfect credit in 7 days, but it's a plan toward perfect credit. But yeah, he's saying if you don't have good credit, start now. I don't think he typed in his answer yet. All right, you guys, have a great night. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be here again next Thursday. Bye-bye.